author of Delectable You, which is a blog that is a compilation of recipes for life and recipes for food, which is why we are here. Normally I leave the camera work to my handsome husband, who's very good, and I normally like to stay behind the scenes, but enough of you have asked me to do a few cooking videos, which is why I'm here. Apparently I've gotten over myself. So today I am doing the first of a series of videos, and we are going to be making gluten-free granola. I would call it vegan, except that we are going to be using honey, and honey is not considered vegan, and we are going to be using brown sugar a little bit, but we are going to use brown sugar, and that's not considered vegan either. So if you're vegan and you're watching, all you need to do is use vegan sugar for the brown sugar and use agave for the honey. And then it's gluten-free and vegan, and everybody wins. Okay, so before we start anything, you'll notice that my very long hair is up, and you really want to make sure that you don't cook in the kitchen with your hair down, because if you're anything like me, and you probably are if you're a girl, your hair is going to shed, and the last thing you want is for people to find your hair in their food. It's not fun. It's happened before, and you just don't want to go there. So put your hair up. Second thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, which I've already done. Now let's just go through the ingredients. So what you're going to need for your gluten-free granola is 4 tablespoons of coconut oil. I am a fan of Trader Joe's. You don't have to use Trader Joe's, particularly for my Canadian friends. You don't have it. One day you will. It will change your life. It's amazing. But until then, just use any regular coconut oil, but make sure it's not refined, because you do want to retain the flavor of the coconut. Even if you don't like coconut, I don't normally like coconut either, but it works really well in this recipe, so just trust me. Second thing you're going to need is a half a cup of honey. Any honey will do. You're going to need a tablespoon of cinnamon, though I'm usually quite heavy-handed with the cinnamon because it's so good. A tablespoon of nutmeg, a half a teaspoon of cloves, and like 1/8 of a cup, but really like a teaspoon or so of brown sugar. Then you're going to need shredded coconut. Any shredded coconut will do. That's a cup. 2 cups of old-fashioned gluten-free oats. Remember, this is gluten-free, so you don't want to get regular. If you don't care about gluten-free, you can get regular, that's fine. Then you're going to need a cup of almonds, a cup of sunflower seeds, and a half a cup each of raisins and cranberries. Now, you do not have to stick to these nuts and these dried fruits. You can choose whatever dried fruits you want. You can either add to what's already here, or you can replace. If you add to what's already here, you might want to just increase this sauce over here that binds everything together, depending on how much you add. And you can email me and I can walk you through that. That's not a problem. So now your tools, you need a nice little saucepan. You're going to need a giant spoon. You're going to need a big bowl. And you're going to need a cookie sheet, either greased or lined with parchment paper. My parchment paper has rolled up here, but I'm going to flatten that out. And that's what you're going to need. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to the stove. Okay, so we've made our way over to the stove, and I've got my honey, my coconut oil, and all of my spices and my sugar. And the first thing we're going to do, I've already preheated this pot, so it's been heating up for a little while. You don't really want to put oil into a cold pan, so let it heat up a little bit, and then put your oil in. And coconut oil melts really nicely. See, it's swimming around in there. And I want this to melt down. And then I'm going to add my cinnamon and my nutmeg and my cloves. And it's going to start to smell really good in your house. And if anybody is around while you are making this, they are going to come into the kitchen and ask you what you're doing, which is a good thing. So you see how quickly it's melting? It's melting quite nicely. So now I'm actually going to turn the heat up a little bit, because what I eventually want to do is pour the honey in as soon as this coconut oil is melted, and I want it to come to a simmer, not a boil, a simmer. A boil is full on bubbling over everywhere. Simmer is just like it's almost like little fish in the bottom of the pan, and they're coming up and saying hello, and that's what a simmer is. So now that the coconut oil is all melted, I can put in my honey. So the reason we're doing this sauce is because this is what's going to bind all of our dry ingredients together and give us all the yummy flavor that comes with the granola. So I'm going to mix this together, make sure it's all incorporated. And essentially what we're trying to do with this simmer is we're trying to, after we add the sugar, make sure that all the sugar is dissolved. So I'm just going to stir this, make sure it's all smooth, turn up the heat, and watch it to make sure that it doesn't boil over. Sugar is very flammable, so you want to be really careful whenever you're handling sugar on the stove. In the meantime, as long as you can keep an eye on this at the same time, we're going to deal with our dry ingredients and put them all in a bowl together to get ready for the sauce. Okay, so now that I'm waiting for that to simmer on the stove, and honestly it won't take more than a minute or two because there's not enough liquid in there, and it's nice and spread out on the bottom, so the heat's going to heat it evenly. Really quickly, I'm going to add my old-fashioned oats, my shredded coconut, my almonds, and my sunflower seeds, and whatever other dry ingredients you've decided to add in, whether it's chia seeds or different nuts, and I'm going to mix it all together. And what's going to happen is that as soon as that sauce simmers, we're going to pour the sauce over this and then mix it again and make sure that everything gets coated. And then we're going to bake it off. We do not need these just yet. This is going to go in almost near the end of the baking process. So now that's nice and mixed up, you see. So I'm going to go check and make sure our sauce is good. Okay, so you see how we've got a nice little simmer going on. If I stir this around, you can feel with your spatula if the sugar has dissolved, and it has dissolved. So we are ready to take this off the stove, and we're going to go over to our dry ingredients. We're going to pour this over the dry ingredients. All right, so pour this directly into your dry ingredients. Put that aside for a minute, and now mix it all together. And if you could be here right now, it smells really good. So I really hope that you guys go ahead and make this as soon as we're done, because it's so good. Kind of smells like pumpkin pie with all the spices that we've got going on in here. All right. So make sure you scrape the bottom too. You want to make sure that there aren't any lone shreds of coconut that are escaping the hot sauce that we've just put on it. Okay, now it's all mixed up. Now, whether you have a greased baking sheet or a parchment paper filled baking sheet, it doesn't matter. You're going to dump this out. And don't touch it with your hands because that sauce is really hot. And so now all of these dry ingredients that are no longer dry are really hot. So be careful with your hands. So it's all out of the bowl. Now you're going to smooth it out into a single layer because we're going to bake this and toast it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it into an oven at 325, and your oven is already ready because you've already preheated it. And we're going to bake it for 30 minutes. But every 10 minutes, we're going to take it out, move everything around, and then put it right back in. So this is good now. This is going in the oven. All right. Usually when I put things in the oven, I like to speak to it and say, you're going to bake beautifully. And I swear it helps. It really does help. It makes everything great. And you're going to make everybody so happy when they taste you. You could think I'm crazy, but I swear it works. So now I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And I'm going to clean up everything that I made a mess of while I wait for that to be ready. All right, so it's been 10 minutes, and the first thing I'm going to do before I even pull out the granola is reset my timer, because sometimes you pull it out and then you forget to reset your timer, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, what time is it? So, as you can see, not a lot of toasting action just yet. So what I want to do is just kind of mix it all around again. because we're trying to get it all evenly toasted. And it's not an exact science. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's totally fine. And then you're going to spread it out again. We're going to put it in for another 10 minutes. So that's pretty good. Get all that off my spoon. You're looking so pretty. That's it. 10 more minutes. Okay, so again, now we are setting the timer again. So we're 20 minutes in. This is going to be the last time. You see how it's getting nice and golden and beautiful? Yes, this is great. So we're just going to mix it up one more time. Put it in for another 10 minutes. And if it's starting to get really dark, if your oven is really hot, then go ahead and add your dried fruit early. But I want this to be a little bit more brown. So I'm going to mix it up again. Put it in for another 10 minutes. And then the next time we pull this out, we're going to add our dried fruit into the mixture. And then put it in for another 5 minutes. But until that happens, 10 more minutes. Already set. I'll see you in 10. Okay, so we've hit the 10-minute mark, and I can see that I like the coloring of this granola. So I'm going to put the timer on for 5 minutes, because what I'm going to do is pull this out, and I'm going to add the dried fruit to it. And I'm going to mix this around. Do you see the coloring? How it's much darker than it was when we first started. Yes, that's where the flavor is coming out. The more you cook it, the more the flavors get in there, and it tastes delicious. All right, so this is nice and mixed up. We're just going to put it in for another 5 minutes, just to kind of let the dried fruit cook with all the rest of the oats and the other dry ingredients. And voila! See you in 5. Okay, so it's granola time. Check that out. And if you could just be here to smell this, it's so good. So good. So we're all done. Let's turn off the oven. And now what we're going to do is we got to let this cool. And once it cools, it's going to all kind of be stuck together like a big brick. And you're just going to decide what you're going to put it in. You're going to pick it up when it's cool. Don't touch it right now. It's very hot. And you're going to break it up into that bowl or into that container. And then you'll have granola for however long you want it to be there. It will last up to 2 weeks, probably longer in an airtight container. But I'll show you that later. All right, so now we've got our yummy finished granola, and it's cool. And as you can see, I'm lifting up the pan and nothing is moving because it's all stuck together. That's exactly what is supposed to happen. So now all we need to do is pick your container. I really like these containers. You can get them at restaurant stores, and I'm actually not sure where else you can get them, but probably online. They're pretty easy to find, I think. They're very useful. They've got these nice airtight lids. And so now you're just going to pick this up, and you see it's all kind of coming together in one piece. That's okay. I'm just going to take it and sprinkle it into your container like that. And you're going to do it with all of the granola until you've got it all in there. Your hands are going to be a little bit dirty, but that's okay. And that is how you make gluten-free granola. So like I said earlier, this will stay fresh in an airtight container for up to 2 weeks at room temperature. You probably will notice that it will not last that long because you'll eat it before that happens. However, if it does and you want to go another week, I'm sure it will be fine. You'll be able to taste when it starts to go. But other than that, that's it. That's how you make it. I think I'm done. Enjoy.